Okay, so can you just talk a bit about, like, what has been your experience so far with living on campus?
It was a really positive experience. I think I really enjoyed, especially because of the hall that I lived in. I lived in Teresa Hall, which is renowned for just being really like open and like energetic and really friendly. So I got to have the experience where like we would just leave our doors open and I would have like friends come in, or like I remember a friend made crepes. It was his birthday, but he made them for the entire dorm. My suite mates ended up becoming like some of my best friends. Like one is my roommate off campus now, and I love her to death. Let's see. Yeah, it's hard to like go from living in a dorm to living in an apartment because you're not surrounded by as many people. And if you want to like get your study on, it's easier to do that, I think, with a group. Or if you want to like get your not study on and just kind of be a hooligan, it's easier to do that in a dorm as well. So.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what were your favorite things about living on campus?
There was always something going on. There were movies down in the lounge. There was like flyers all around like about stuff that was going on in school. Living on campus makes you more connected. It's a lot easier to make friends. It's a lot easier to like go to things that are going on campus because like boom, like your hall is going, so you have people to go with. It's also a lot easier to like find stuff to do like in the springtime, especially, you know, when the weather's amazing. Like you just go down into the lounge and you're like, do you guys want to go to Barton Springs? And everybody's completely down. So I think it's a lot easier to socialize and like make connections that last your second year and your third year and your fourth year.
Yes.
Cool. I went through 2 different roommates while I was living on campus. So I think I had issues with both of my roommates. It wasn't a big deal, but I think you really have to learn how to navigate those kinds of situations. Also, and you don't think about this when you go to college, at least we didn't, toilet paper. You bring your own toilet paper, so it would kind of be like a fun game of, hey, it's your turn, like, could you remember to buy some? And of course somebody wouldn't. So I think it's like negotiating that kind of stuff, like what are we going to do for the common area? And also sometimes it can be hard to focus because surprisingly enough, the walls are very thin in dorms. So.
And so how did you kind of handle those in a way that was healthy, you know, instead of just like blowing up at a roommate or...
I was really lucky, again, with my suite mates. It was really easy to go and be like, hey, like at this time, do you think we could all just like come into our room and just talk about what's going on? So I was really lucky in that aspect. I was also very lucky in that even if my roommate and I couldn't come to some kind of peaceful like compromise, I had my suite mates, and I knew that I just knew that they would kind of be really good, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? Translators, I guess, between my roommate and I. And I think my roommate and I were also able to just kind of be like, all right, we're not going to get along. We are completely different people. That's just the way it's going to be. So, like, we figured out how to, like, coexist, which is a really useful skill. And I think if you go to St. Edward's, you really learn how to be. And we even have a debate, the peace and civility debate. You learn how to be peaceful and you learn how to be civil, even if you don't necessarily agree or like one another.
And I guess what advice would you give to a student who like needed to do kind of exactly that, like trying to be peaceful with the roommate? You know, sometimes you're just not going to be best friends with your roommate, and that's just how it's going to be, but...
I mean, that right there, I think you just have to go into the experience and be like, you know what, I'm going to have a roommate, and they absolutely don't have to be my best friend. Sometimes it might even be better that they're not your best friend, and that's okay. I would take the contract that you make at the beginning of the semester very seriously, because that talks about like what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And I think just from like the get-go, because I know you want to be like that person who's super casual with like lending you some food or like lending you my clothes, but you don't have to be that person. Because once you do that, you're kind of stuck with like repeatedly doing that, and then you might have somebody who takes advantage of that or who doesn't know like when to stop. So I think from the get-go, you have to set up your boundaries, and it's okay. Like nobody's gonna judge you if you set up boundaries because it's your space too. But I think you also have to remember that maybe they left their families like in a different state or in a different city, or maybe they're right down the street, but like this is a transition for them too. So I think just to keep an open mind, but also be assertive and be respectful, and I think that's the best thing that you can do. If you go into it and if you just even like put yourself out there a little bit, I guarantee you that you're gonna reap the reward of that. You know, if somebody leaves their door open, it's because they want somebody to come in and like hang out or talk to them. So do that, because you know, you go into somebody's room and you're like talking, and I remember I did this. I went into somebody's room and we were just like talking, and then we were talking about South Congress, and I'm from Austin, so I know all about South Congress. And 20 minutes later, we were like texting other friends that we each had who hadn't met, and just like, do you guys want to go eat at Mag's, or do you guys want to like go maybe hit up the food trailers? And so that was a really positive experience. Also, if you go into the dorm and you're like, I'm not really going to respect anybody's like need for silence, or like respect their privacy and just be super loud and obnoxious, everyone's going to know who you are, and everyone's going to get really annoyed by you. And I think that really sucks too, to kind of have that. So I think, yeah, you have to go in and you have to like be open and also be respectful. And you're in a really great city, so I would take a lot of advantage of that. And you're surrounded by kids who are also new to the city, so you're coming in with more common interests than different interests, in my opinion. And I think it's really important to take hold of that. You're never going to nap more than you do your freshman year. This is just a fact, because you get to live on campus and your dorm is right there. So I know that 50-minute break that you have between classes is awesome, and it sounds like nap time. Don't do it, because I guarantee that you're going to sleep through your next class, and then you're going to get up for your third class, and you're just not going to go, I think. But also, really enjoy living on campus, because it's a privilege. It's a privilege to live in Desjardins, and like in a minute you're at Rags eating food, and in another minute you're in class. So, yes.
Awesome.